there. Thank you for joining us. We are doing our 7th OCD Gamechangers Fireside Chat, starting our 2nd week. Last week we did Fireside Chats every single day. And let me tell you, that was fun, but it was also really tiring. So Christy is scaling back. I'm doing 3 this week, and probably next week we'll scale back to 2. What we really wanted to do was make a big splash for people during a time where this uncertainty is so traumatizing for people. It's so scary for people. It's so, like Phillipson said, when we don't know where the finish line is, people really get scared. And so we wanted to give a lot of support last week, still give support this week, and then continue to do these chats so you feel really in a place where you feel supported and normalized wherever you are in this process. My name is Christy Hodges. I am the founder and the executive director of OCD Gamechangers. We're a nonprofit that helps to, we try to find resources. We do events to bring people together to spread awareness and create community. That's our big thing. Giving people a platform if they want to give back. We want to support that. If you've been on our Facebook page, you'll see that. We're absolutely open to, posting your blogs and posting things. So please reach out to us. I'm also a certified peer support specialist here in the state of Colorado, and I support people worldwide who are living with OCD to help normalize and their symptoms and also the emotional turmoil that OCD causes. We also do referral consultations so we can connect you to OCD therapists around the world to help you in your journey to recovery. So with that said, I want to go ahead and introduce our guest today. So Alegra Kastens, did I say that right? I did, right?
Yes, you did.
Oh my God, I all of a sudden was like, what if I said your name completely wrong? Alegra is joining us today, and I'm going to have her introduce herself to you and let you know who she is and what she does. And make sure to plug your Instagram.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So I am an OCD specialist, and right now I'm working in Los Angeles. I work for the OCD Center of Los Angeles. I see clients in the state of California. I mean, right now everything is virtual with teletherapy, but I also see clients internationally and then in a few other states as well. I have OCD myself, and that's kind of what made me want to get into this field and really help others in the way that I had been helped in this journey. And I'm an advocate as well. I do have an Instagram account. It's called @obsessively-ever-after. And advocacy and education are they're really big values of mine, because I think when I was going through what I was, experiencing with POCD, there wasn't a lot of information out there, and I had absolutely no idea what OCD actually was. Mm-hmm. So my life mission is to change that, and hopefully people out there who are suffering can figure out what it is that they're dealing with a lot sooner.
And then also we are going to do a video on POCD, correct?
Super excited about that. Yes. Love a good POCD chat.
So for those of you that don't know, OCD can take the form of intrusive thoughts. Oftentimes they're taboo. Oftentimes they just deal with things like your sexuality and violence and blasphemy and disease or whatever else that you could have uncertainty about. And one of those really, really common themes is the fear of being a pedophile. Mm-hmm. And there's not a lot of information out there because people are afraid to put it out, because that means if I'm putting this out there, people might think I am a pedophile or I'm a pedophile sympathizer, when in reality, so many people live with this intrusive thought. They're scared to ask for help because they're scared no one will believe them. So thank you, Alegra, for all you do for that. And we will do a video and put it on YouTube soon. Yes.
Sounds good.
So with that said, I want to just share with you what we're going to talk about today. If you've joined me for Fireside Chats in this last week, it's been kind of this, we haven't really planned thing. There's no agenda. But Alegra and I have been talking a lot in these last couple weeks, and our feelings about basically really how we are actually feeling about what is going on right now in the world, and the connection to how we feel emotionally, and the backlash we felt, kind of the silencing on social media because we have been feeling this way. Let me explain a little bit more before we get into it. We are going to talk about specific things we've seen on social media. So I want you to know that this is not at all shaming people who are posting things that are trying to look for the positive, or posting things because it's aligned with their worldview in regards to, I'm in this position that I can stay home and everything is wonderful. But we want to talk kind of about the both and, which is you can feel wait a minute, what is it?
Yeah. Where two things can coexist at the same time, right? So
yes.
A lot of people are expressing silver linings. They're finding silver linings in this time, and they're feeling grateful, about having steady income still and having a house and feeling safe at home. And I think sometimes the kind of you should feel grateful and you should be looking for a silver lining, I think it really invalidates people who just can't find a silver lining right now. And so people are allowed to feel not grateful, and people are allowed to feel like there is just not a silver lining right now. So the both and is you can feel grateful if that helps you, and you can also validate feeling really angry and sad at the same time.
Thank you, because see, my notes, it just says both and I was like, oh shit, I didn't write anything after that and I just forgot. But I stand by that. If you've watched last week, you can probably tell that I've been in limbo about this, about how to present and about how to be really, authentic in how I am taking this pandemic in stride, because I'm not. And every day I felt differently. Every day I felt scared, and sometimes I was more upbeat. Sometimes I was really sad and angry. And, yesterday was kind of a tipping point for me of just this absolute low I haven't felt during any of it. And so I'm so grateful that we're doing this video today. I also want to preface with this. Angie and I met on Friday here at the Fireside Chats. And one of the things that she said that's hugely resonated with me is this: when you become an advocate or an activist, you've been through something. You've experienced it, the trauma, and then the trauma of it, how it impacts your life. And then you get the time to experience the emotional repercussions of it and then heal from that. And then you make the choice. I want to be an advocate. I want to be an activist. I want to give back. I want to help people going through this. The problem here is that none of us has gone through this. Mm-hmm. We're all going through this together now. And so that is why I was relatively silent for the first couple of weeks, because I have no idea how to process the amount of emotions that I have and then roll it all up and present it in a ball of hope. Because to be honest with you, I don't feel that hopeful every day. I feel more scared and more into the negative feelings of things. And I feel as if going to social media or talking to people who aren't in the position that I'm in or just aren't on the same wavelength has been extremely invalidating. Yeah. So with that said, we're going to go, I'm going to have Alegra talk about how she's been feeling in the last couple of weeks. We welcome any sort of comments. Like, this is not a place to argue. We're not, this isn't a place that one person is right and one person isn't right. We're just presenting a whole viewpoint, maybe the other side of something, in order for us all to see kind of a complete worldview and move forward together, and how to support every single one of us who is going through this pandemic together. So with that, Alegra, let's start with how it's been feeling for you emotionally since the very start of this.
Absolutely. Quick question. Do I look at my camera or do I look at you?
When I'm talking, I look at the camera. Or if I'm talking to you, I'll look at you. So
okay. Should I look at you or the? I can never.
Whatever makes you feel comfortable.
Okay, I'll look at you. This is what I do in teletherapy sessions. Okay. So I feel, oh my goodness, I have felt so many emotions, like such a wide range of emotions in the past couple of weeks, and I think I have like a really big heart to begin with, and I feel things really deeply. And number one, I want to thank everyone on the front lines, which I know, like we talked about, like the doctors and the FedEx workers and the Amazon Prime people who are still delivering. Like, I really want to thank them for their service. And at the same time, my heart just feels so broken for people who have lost jobs, have lost, all of their income. They've lost companies that they've worked so long to build. They're sitting home with a family of 5 wondering, how am I going to feed my family during this time? And then you take to the internet and you see, like, just sit at home. It's not that hard. Or like, you should be grateful. This is a reset. Like, you get a chance to restore and to reset. And for so many people, this is not a time to reset or to restore. And if that is for you, that comes from a place of privilege. And I say this having privilege myself, like, I am lucky enough to still have my job and to be able to have a place to live, but I know what it's like to struggle financially. And financial struggle contributes greatly to mental health. And I think right now, like this, just like the silver linings and the fine gratitude, I think it's a little bit, I think it's a little bit harmful for people who don't feel like this time is a time that they can be grateful in. And what goes beyond that, and I think what's been more upsetting for me, is the amount of shame that we've seen on social media. Like, you are a terrible person if you leave your house. I've seen you're dumb, you're stupid, you're an idiot. And it just
COVID-idiot.
Yes,
that's the term, COVID.
Yeah. And it's like, cyberbullying is never okay at any point. And I think it's the last thing that we need right now, number one. Like, I don't think it's ever okay to call someone an idiot or stupid online. And I think, sometimes the people who say things like that are coming from a place of privilege, where they can sit inside their house and they can relax and hang out with their kids, where other people are really struggling. And maybe they really need that walk down the street because they're dealing with a ton of anxiety and they have OCD and they're really struggling with depression. Maybe they need to go to work right now if they are allowed to, because they have to feed their family. And, I just think the shaming that I've seen has just really, I think it's hurt me a lot. And I think I can empathize with people who aren't feeling very grateful right now, because like I said, I know what it's like to struggle financially. And I just can't imagine how hard it must be for these people.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I also want to make kind of the proclamation here that I know that I am also in a position where I worked from home before this even started. Mm-hmm. A lot about my life has not changed. And I just want to make that aware to you, that I understand that I am in this position where I can say, okay, well, yeah, I can stay home, or I can do what is recommended to me. However, I also want to make two distinctions. And this is where I think the message that I want to come across here is that every single person is experiencing this differently because of their own personal experience. If you've experienced losing a job or losing a business or poverty, this is going to be very different for you than someone who hasn't, or someone who has so much that they really think to themselves, okay, for the next 6 months, I'll be cool when things bounce back. Yeah. For me, the worldview comes from, number one, I owned a clothing store years and years ago, back in the day. And girl, it was so fun. And it was, oh God, I used to love going to LA to buy. Oh my God. I love
downtown LA. I've done that too.
I mean, LA downtown isn't the greatest, but I loved it because I was in a little ski town. I'd be like, I'm in LA. Anyway. So I owned a clothing store and things went really well for a couple years. And then boom, the recession hit. And here's the thing. We were in a ski town. So the recession hit us 1 year after. So that first year I was skirting through. I was like, oh, the recession isn't going to hit us. Well, it didn't hit us then because people had already booked trips. But then when they stopped booking trips the next year, everything tanked. Yeah. I ended up moving to Denver. I was trying to make every decision possible to think, how can I keep this business alive? And that was also just a bad decision. I was young. I didn't know, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I spent many months in absolute, like, borderline poverty. I looked great because I could buy clothing at cost. However, people didn't know, literally going home and trying to make a decision about what I was going to do. Was I going to pay rent or was I going to buy food? And what was I going to buy? And that in turn, a couple years later, drove me to bankruptcy. Yeah. And so going through bankruptcy actually was because I ended up closing the store because things were so bad through that time. And going through bankruptcy, was shameful as shit.
Yeah, because are shameful.
Yeah, at that point it was, oh my God, if you go bankruptcy, you don't know how to manage your money. I'm like, really? We just went through this humongous recession. Of course I didn't know how to manage shit. Nobody had felt that in my generation at that point. And so having to do that and then having kind of like that scar on my financials, I mean, whatever, I worked through it and I'm like, whatever now. And a lot of people did and got to, because it became a little more normalized during that time. But I know for a fact how scary it is to watch everything fall apart and go, is my business going to be next? Mm-hmm. And so when I'm seeing all of this, this were back in 2008, I would not be sitting at home because I had to close my store. Like, oh, let me just relax and self-care. No, I would be panicking. How am I going to make sales? No one's going to be able to buy, I was non-essential. I was a clothing store. And so I feel like I'm experiencing some of that trauma again of what I went through. And so I just want you to know where I'm coming from on this. So when people are telling me I need to find a silver lining, I just want you to know, I know what it's like to not have a silver lining because my business had to shut down because of things that were out of my control. So that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. And I think, first of all, thank you for sharing that. And I want to, there's two things I want to discuss. Number one, you said money issues are shameful. And I think they do feel really shameful for people. It's not that there's anything to be ashamed of, but I think struggling with finances makes us feel like something is inherently wrong with us. And I think that is a big trigger for mental health conditions. Number two, you said, I don't need to find a silver lining right now. And that is one of the most important parts of this. You don't need to feel any type of way. There is no right feeling right now. You don't need to be grateful. You don't need to find a silver lining. If that works for you, fantastic. But you're allowed to be wherever you are in this process. And if that means grieving losses, whether that's a lost, graduation. Imagine working so hard and not being able to walk in your college graduation. That would have upset me a lot.
Absolutely.
It really impacted my ability to finish my bachelor's degree, and graduation was a huge, it was just a huge milestone for me. So think about all these people grieving that, and, the loss of weddings, and people who have lost loved ones that, don't get to have a funeral. And of course, the loss of lives is horrific and it's so sad. But I think sometimes we often associate grieving with death, and people are allowed to grieve all of the other losses that they're experiencing during this time.
Exactly. And I do believe also it's as much as we are honed in and hyper-focused right now on the coronavirus. I'm going to say something that's going to sound really insensitive, and I am not a whataboutism person at all, because I think that every single person deserves to feel what they feel in their experience. But we are in this all together. We say this as a country. We have to be, because we're all experiencing it together. So to look at the impact right now that it is going to have on people who may get the virus. I mean, I may get it, you may get it. Lots of people we know might get it over the next year or so as this moves through the population. This is, yes, the last thing that I want is for people to die. Holy crap. I don't want to die from it. However, I've said before, I might, and Sean might, and whatever, we'll deal with it when that happens.
Uncertainty. You're really good at living with uncertainty.
That is. It's funny that death doesn't cause much anxiety around that, but okay. Whether or not they, kill someone or, molest someone does. Anyway, but I think that it's important to understand that people like Alegra and myself, who are constantly engaging with a community of people who suffer at the drop of this, not even the drop, this is a magnitude. We are going to be in a position where mental health is completely going to the need for support, the fear that suicides are going to be astronomical. That's the other side that I want to present to this. This is not prioritizing one group of people who are going to get coronavirus over another group of people who take their life. And whatever you think about suicide, to be honest with you, I don't want to know about that in the comments. So don't even. But this is going to be an actual reality after this, because we have seen in recessions, we have seen that this happens. It's an uptick in suicides. It's an uptick in mental health. It's right now, I read an article the other day, this has been the most people that have filed for unemployment in the history of America. And so, if you don't understand how that stuff equates to mental health or to suicidality, I would highly suggest thinking about that as we're moving forward as a country, and how to support all people who might lose their life.
Yes,
so that's the both and.
Yes, exactly. And like you said, we're all in this together. And it's not just like stay at home. That's the right thing to do. It's how can I support other people, and how can I like take a step back, look at my own privilege, and understand that other people are not in the same situation as me. And I think that's what we're talking about here, and that's what we're doing. But sadly, and I know that like, social media is not the only thing out there, but so much of what I've seen on social media is like, we're going to come out of this so wonderful. And, you know, this is like, I get to play with my kids, and I get to be with my husband, and I love this. But what are we going to do for the community that is really impacted financially? You know, I've had therapy clients who have lost jobs, and they're already struggling with mental health conditions. And we should be taking a step back and really thinking about how we can support them as well, because their lives matter too.
I want to add something to that and get your thoughts on it, because this is, I think, an important issue, and another way that we can embrace all different experiences and worldviews. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest things that's very hurtful when I see this is, you know, just step back and be grateful to spend time with your family. Mm-hmm. I want you to think for a minute what it feels like to be in a home where you are abused.
Oh, that gets me.
And so you may not know what that feels like. You may never have experienced it, and that's okay too. And it's hard to know what it feels like or what it is if you have not been in that position. But Alegra, if you want to talk a little bit about like what this time might feel like for people who are stuck inside with an abusive spouse or an abusive mom or dad, or, you know, even an abusive child, I don't know, but just in an environment where you are being kind of like shamed if you aren't getting out, but you are relying on getting out of the house to almost self-preserve in the light of abuse.
Yeah, I think it's horrific, you know, like I can't imagine how scary that must feel to be trapped in a house, you know, with somebody that is abusive. And I know I've seen online, like, you know, we shouldn't look at it as being trapped, like we should look at it as being safe at home, but not everybody is safe at home. And I think that we often don't think about those things. And like to really put ourselves in that person's position, I think like, of course they want to get out of the house. They need to get out of the house to live. You know, everybody is not in the same place right now. And I think so much is like of what I've seen is like, we're all in this together. Yes, we're all in this together, but we are not all in the same position. And if you are at home with an abuser, oh my goodness, my heart goes out to you. And I hope that you can get out of the house. And I hope that we can do whatever we can to support you. And I think to feel the shame already of being abused by somebody, because I know that carries shame. Sufferers often think like, this is my fault. I've done something to deserve this. And then to have the shame of people on the internet, like stay at home or you're selfish, stay at home or you're an idiot. Why are you killing people? I think living with that shame on top of that must like put somebody over the edge. And it saddens me that a lot of people can't think about, I mean, not a lot, you know, I don't know how many of you are actually thinking about these situations, but from what I've seen online, some people take their own position and then kind of think like, this is how the world lives. This is not how the world lives. Not everybody can work from home. Not everybody feels safe at home with their family. Not everybody has money in a savings account. You know, like this journey for everybody is very unique. And I hope that we're giving a voice to people who feel like, you know, like this is awful. This is a horrible time in my life.
And to kind of circle back with that point too, I've seen many comments, and I've gotten off social media a little bit lately, which has helped tremendously with how I'm feeling about the situation and about my situation and mine and Sean's financial situation. But another thing to be really mindful of is when people, this is a really good point. So when I said earlier, expressing how you're really feeling during this is sometimes being silenced and almost bullied into silence.
Yeah.
One of the ways that people are doing that is if someone says something along the lines of, I've seen this with the mortgage and the renters issue of like how people can't pay their rent. And so they're really wanting the landlords to be able to grant them, some help either this month or next, and hopes that the mortgage lenders are going to grant the landlords, whatever the whole scenario. But I'm going to tell you, in these arguments, this is what I've seen the most. If you can't go, people commenting back, if you can't go 1 month and be able to pay your bills, you need to do something about your money management. No. Don't do that. Don't do that.
It's
no
so
one.
shameful.
And I'm gonna
so shameful.
I'm gonna jump on to the millennial, like Gen Y, like my generation, maybe like the upper end where I am. We don't understand what they're going through with student loans. We don't understand their world. Okay. So I cannot go on to a 28-year-old's post and go, I can't believe that you don't know how to manage your money to the point where you can't just take a month. That is so awful. And can you imagine seeing that? It is. Can you imagine seeing that as a person who is maybe struggled, or maybe they just went through a divorce, or maybe they lost their job a couple of years ago and are just catching up? You don't know people's situations.
Mm-hmm.
So don't take your own financial situation and throw it on someone else and make them feel. I've had one person in my life shame me in that way. And I remember it was someone that owed me money. And then it was a ridiculous story of just doing work. And they said to me, if you can't go without this money and pay your rent for 1 month, I'm really worried about you. And I just thought, what in the world? Why would you ever say something like that to another human being?
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to say, if that's how you feel, that's great. And I'm so happy for you that you can go a few months. But please don't say that to other people, because we really don't know everybody's circumstance. And this is already, not having a finish line is already causing so much anxiety for people. Mm-hmm. And being shamed about your finances is one of the worst things that you can do. You want to talk about suicidality? Yeah. That can drive people down that hole.
Yeah. And I think, like, to that point also, it's like, what is shaming and condemning and judging somebody going to do to help the situation? I can't see how that is helpful in any which way.
I agree. So with that said, actually, what is a good response to something like that? So if we're going to talk about like what our bad response is, I think it would be good for us to actually think about like, what are appropriate ways to respond to people? And I'm trying to think about myself in this. Mm-hmm. I have not been on social media that much commenting about how I feel. This is one of the first times I've been really open about it. I posted on Instagram. I should have printed out like what people said on my Instagram, because I finally posted, I think it was last week, because I just had it up to my ears and feeling ashamed on how I was feeling. But I got a lot of really good feedback and people feeling this way. But I wanted to maybe brainstorm with you just for a minute about what are some really good responses to people who are feeling negative or feeling like they don't want to look for a silver lining in all this.
Okay. I think the first thing is my feelings are valid. Like some affirmations. The way that I'm feeling is valid. It is okay to feel this way. It doesn't mean we're going to sit in this feeling for the next year, but it means I am going to make space for this. And I am going to tell myself that what I'm feeling is perfectly acceptable, because it is. So I think making space for feelings, and also allowing yourself to grieve, to feel the sadness. We have to feel to heal. And if we're just shoving aside our feelings and saying, okay, I'm actually really angry and sad, but since everybody wants me to be grateful, I'm going to do that. The anger and sadness is going to come up eventually, and it's going to really affect us. So to feel and to process and to really move on and move forward with some of these things, we have got to feel what we're feeling. So tell yourself, I am allowed to feel this way. I am worthy of feeling my feelings, and nobody can tell me otherwise. There are no shoulds with the way that I'm feeling. I get to feel however I feel. This is my life. This is my journey, and this is my unique situation.
A good lead off to in responding to people or trying to support people are, I'm really sorry that you're feeling this way, or what kind of support do you need? Or
I love that question. Yeah, I think what kind of support do you need? It takes into account like the other person and what they might need in a really difficult time. And that could be like they need something socially. Like I have felt pretty lonely being in this in my house. I don't like it. You know, of course, am I in a place of privilege? Yes, but I don't like it. And I think it's okay to say, like, I hate being inside. I just do. Okay. And so asking people, like my friends ask me sometimes, what do you need? And I say, hey, can we FaceTime? Ask somebody, like, if you can help out financially, like, do you need to borrow a little bit of money right now? You know, like I'm tipping my Postmates drivers if I can, because they still have to work. And I know people in the entertainment industry who have had to like essentially stop their whole career and start doing Postmates right now. So can I tip you? Can I give you a loan? Or like, can I just listen? Can I listen to how painful this is for you and really like lend my ear so you can process some of this stuff? But we do need to be taking into account the way that others are feeling. And I think we've been cutting that off a lot of the time because we think, you know, well, this is my position, so everybody else is probably in it too. And everybody else is not in it.
Right. Right. I agree. And I also think I want to highlight what Stu said last week, which I was skeptical of at the moment. But then I talked to Lori Johnson too yesterday on FaceTime, and we were talking about kind of the rise in humanity during this. I think that a lot of us feel like the humanity in each other and being able to help and come together has been lost. And then all of a sudden, you know, she was telling me, she said, I guess she put it out there. Maybe she put it on social media or said something in regards to, we don't have any toilet paper. We only have like 2 rolls. We don't know what to do. And the next thing she knows, she has 8 people like offering her rolls of toilet paper.
They're so sweet.
But it also, I think, probably changed their view and vantage point about what's going on, and maybe focusing on, okay, if someone is giving to me, how can I give back?
Of course.
In a lot of these situations, I think even in the fear, that's why I love what I do in peer support, is even during all this, I'm still able to give to people. And even if that is just my time to listen. And so the peer support in the fireside chats have kind of been my lifeline in these last couple weeks in order to just stay grounded, and I still have something to offer. And when people are feeling desperate, and just like you said, when they are feeling a certain way, and you have a collective society saying you need to get over it and just feel grateful and just take this time to reset, because this is how America should be, family values. Come on now. Like, my family is not, you know, my next door neighbor's family where someone gets beat every night. That does not happen here. I don't know if it does. I'm not accusing my neighbors. But I don't know. I'm going to see this in nextdoor.com, you know, on the app soon. No, I didn't. But, you know, I don't know that where, you know, and I also want to make the point of, and I talked about this last week, I felt very differently about this until my husband got furloughed, until all of a sudden we lost our income, which now it looks like it's probably going to be pushed even farther, you know, and I went from, we're going to be okay, we're going to be okay, we're going to be okay, to rent is due in 2 days and we have an entire income that's gone. So all of a sudden my whole world shifted. And so my disdain of getting onto social media and seeing like, y'all should just be grateful, and what's your silver lining in all of this? Like, I wanted to punt my computer across the field of like, my silver lining.
Yeah. And like we talked about, it can be helpful for some people, but it's not for others. Yeah. I think, you know, I think this is a really awesome time to like examine privilege. And like, I know that this doesn't necessarily relate to like a lot of what we're talking about, but think of disabled people who have been asking, or otherly abled, I hope I said the right thing, who have been asking to work from home forever. And now suddenly working from home is like perfectly acceptable, and it's wonderful. And otherly able people who have been needing like more access to hospitals and healthcare and haven't been able to get it. But now like we're kind of expanding that like healthcare. So I think also like there are so many other elements of this in regard to privilege that aren't considered. And I think that can be very triggering for a lot of people. And like a lot of people can't like sit at home and learn a new hobby right now. And if you can, that's wonderful. But like, let's really keep in mind that not everybody is feeling that way.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm glad that you brought up the disability piece, because I was reading an article the other day, and that was one of the things of
Yeah.
how that has always been such an issue with corporations.
Huge issue.
And now all of a sudden it's the
Mm-hmm.
cool thing to do. Or,
Yeah. And that I feel like we've got to represent those people, because my whole thing with my platform is inclusivity. We need to be inclusive, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. Nobody's better than one another. And like, I honestly feel sad for those people who have been asking to work from home for so long. And now, like you said, it's the cool thing to do, like working from home, but it wasn't for them when they asked for it.
So before we move into kind of a next, well, here's what I do when I ask. This is kind of before we move into like what you and I were talking about, how we wanted to go over some of the things that are said that could be triggering or demeaning to people. One of the things I wanted to pose and for us to talk about for a minute is what do you think is going on to drive people to champion that split? And if you don't do this, then you are killing people. Or if you don't do this, like, you're a horrible person and we're going to remember how horrible you are, and or whatever. Like, what do you think is driving that for people?
Honestly, I wish I knew. Like, I really, really wish I knew. It's mind-boggling to me. And not that I do think staying at home is helpful if you can, but I think like people have kind of, like, I don't want to say gotten on a high horse, because that sounds like not what I'm intending for it to be. But I think you're right. A lot of people have been championing. Yeah, that's how you say it. Like staying at home and saving lives, and like really ask yourself, do I do this every day of my life? Or am I doing this now because it could possibly affect me? Like, am I advocating for all individuals? Am I fighting for, the health of all individuals and the wellness of all individuals outside of this time period? And I think it's a little bit confusing, for people to say, I'm sitting at home and therefore I am now Mother Teresa and I'm going to judge the rest of you. When, like, where have you been the past, 100 years when the government has ignored health crises? And I don't know if people do that. I really don't. And I hope the shame stops. I really do, because especially in regard to OCD and hyper responsibility, seeing things like if you go outside, you're going to kill someone. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot for anyone to handle. And especially people with OCD. Like, it's like, am I not even allowed to like step outside of my door because I might kill someone? When in reality, I guess we kind of take that risk every single day when we get in our cars, when we have the flu and we go out. I mean, yes, it's more pronounced right now because the virus is spreading rapidly, but every single day we like accept the possibility of maybe I am going to kill someone today. But now if you even step foot outside, you're going to kill someone. And that's a lot to carry during this time.
I think for anybody in general, and then you put OCD on top of that, it's going to exacerbate symptoms or create new symptoms.
And that's what a lot of my clients have been dealing with, not even the virus and the getting sick, but the hyper responsibility. And part of that, like, is trusting that other people are doing what they need to do. If they need to be wearing masks and gloves, they will. And then us doing the best that we can. A friend of mine was just shamed for going to CVS yesterday. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself, someone said. You should be social distancing. And I really hope the shaming can stop, because like at the end of the day, some people do need to go to the store, and that's okay.
So to piggyback on that, we wrote down some things that we've seen that really impacted us, and know that impact people that are very different from us. And one of those is there's this thing going around on Facebook. I've seen it, kind of just take it off Facebook, and it's like rating how your life has changed since this has all started. So like, if there's a 1, nothing has changed. If there's a 2, slightly changed, whatever. And then 5 down to it's completely changed. I'm locked down in my house doing the right thing. And so I understand these things. Like, how fun is it to see maybe I don't understand it. Like, let's see what everybody's doing or whatever. But when I was looking at one, I scrolled down. I'm going to tell you, my life has not changed almost at all, even though I'm having a massive emotional response to this. Like, my day-to-day life, I worked from home before this. I do my thing, I it has changed because I'm not traveling anymore once a week, which I do for work. And then I don't go to the restaurants that I would normally go to. And I'm sad and I miss that. And I'm looking forward to them opening again. But, my response to that is, no, my life hasn't really changed. I work from home. I work out. I go to the same places to work out. I do my part to social distance because I'm out on trails. I'm running on the road. When I'm at the incline, like, we're not really like holding hands going up the incline with people. That's just the reality. And so part of me wanted to respond, one, my life hasn't changed because it hasn't. I'm going to go to the store when I need food to feed my family and for myself. I am going to go, to this place and that place if I need things for my life. And I scrolled down and I saw, I'm so glad to see everybody is doing the right thing by putting a 4 and a 5. And I was like, what do you mean doing the right thing? Mm-hmm. So I'm a horrible person because my life has, it was very, I got so debate. It was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And I just unfollowed the person because it was like, I can't handle the fact that like I could even get on there maybe and put 1 and someone would want to attack me by just even seeing that before I could say, by the way, I social distance anyway. Like,
you're actually
I avoid hordes of people. I'm typically really good about avoiding germs because I'm worrying about vomiting. For some reason now I'm not at all. I'm like, I'll go lick the floor. No, I won't. But like Lori Johnson said yesterday, if you really want Chrissy to not do something or to do something, tell her she can't do it and then she'll go do it. But it just, that in general it was personal for me. I saw it and I was just like, what?
Yeah, because it just, I feel like to say that there's a right and wrong thing and like you're bad or you're good, like that's shameful for people to hear, especially when people don't know like what your situation is. Like you said, if you just comment a 1, you would probably be attacked for that. Exactly. And that's one of the things that really bothers me about social media is people are so quick to say something that maybe they wouldn't say like to somebody's face. So they feel like it's easier for me to attack online, but like maybe I wouldn't say this to your face when we can talk about it and I can see, oh, like, your life hasn't changed a lot because you socially distance like to begin with.
Right. Exactly.
And the idea that like there was a therapist that I follow on Instagram who had this like kind of like a poll or something that said like, let's see who can stay inside for like the longest period of time. And, especially coming from a therapist, like people who struggle with mental health conditions need to get outside. I urge all of my clients, take a walk. Yes, socially distance. Yes, do what you need to do, follow CDC guidelines, but you are allowed to go take a walk. You're allowed to take a bike ride. You can really, really take care of yourself right now. And I don't think it needs to be a competition of like, you stayed at home the longest, so now you're the best person. That's just
now you're the hero.
Yeah, that's not what this is about. People are struggling with different things. And I hope therapists especially understand that. Like maybe somebody going to the store is like, it's really, really helping their mental health. Not saying you need to be going to the store all the time, but people are allowed to go to the store if they need food and they're allowed to take walks. And that doesn't make them worse off. It doesn't make them less worthy than another person. Mm-hmm. And I wish it wasn't this like moral, like, am I good? Am I bad? Because I'm not even going to lie. Sometimes I get afraid, like when I have to go to Trader Joe's or, like Target to get something that I've like run out of. I'm kind of scared because I don't want people to judge me for that. So it's like, I feel like even stepping out of your house, like my friend who just went to CVS, you are stepping out and preparing to be judged essentially.
I'm going to tell you, it's the scariest part for me is then how are we going to adjust back? Because if people are already, I feel that pressure already. And again, like my life in general is very much social distanced. And so I'm already feeling that pressure of, a couple of days ago, I was in the post office and I walked up to grab a package and I don't know how close I was to this chick. And she turned around and gave me like the death stare. And I was like, wait, what? Like I'm as far back as I can be without being out the door. And it just feels so awful. It just feels so inhumane. Yeah. And I'm scared that we're going to lose that. It's scary to me that where this is going to go from here.
Well, definitely, because even like, even when we're taking walks down the street, and I was talking to my therapist about this, and like, it's the right thing to do to move out of the way and to socially distance. But even that, our brains kind of interpret it as we're being shunned. And then some people are actually shunned. It's not just the brain interpreting it as that. Some people really are being shunned. And that's where like, I hope other people can really like put into perspective like what somebody else might be experiencing before like judging. I mean, you shouldn't shame and judge to begin with, but if you are going to have an opinion about something, really try to step into that person's shoes and not just step into them, but maybe walk a couple of miles before you're going to judge.
Mm-hmm. And also understanding just the situation overall, and being able to assess, and being on the incline yesterday, which I thought it was really interesting. And I think I shared this with you when we were talking earlier. I can't remember, but where I typically will go to the incline even at night with my headlamp just to avoid people.
You're like
in general,
person like in life to begin with.
Now when I go to the incline now, so the incline, just if you don't know, you're like, what is the incline? It's in Castle Rock. It's 200 stairs. It goes up this kind of mountain thing, and so a lot of times people go and they go up and down. It's a great workout or whatever, and but interestingly enough, when you're on the incline, like people don't give a shit about anybody else. They're just like, oh, I wish people were on here. Like, get out of my way. I don't want to be behind someone, or people are on their phone and it's annoying, or kids are crawling all over it. And I have noticed the last few times I've gone, I go a few times a week. When I walk past people up, when you're walking past, like yesterday, 3 people actually looked at me and waved. They were like, hey.
It's like,
and I thought, oh my God, hey.
Right? I told my friend, I was like, the FedEx guy, Raul, coming to my door was like the best thing to happen to me all week. Like, Raul, oh my God, I love you. Please come in. Yeah. So when people actually recognize like, oh, here's another human being, they're probably struggling right now. Like, let's make a connection. That is so helpful. It doesn't need to be like, I am so isolated and I get the award for being isolated. Let's also help other people out, and let's be social and, as social as we can be in these times. And I think
it's beautiful. And to that point on the incline also yesterday, as I'm like feeling this connection to all the incline goers, I was also going up or coming down or something, and just like, in my head, listening to music or doing something, and all of a sudden, like, this woman stopped as I was coming near her and was just like, and backed up, and I just felt like, are you serious, drama queen? Like, come on. Like, I didn't even realize she was coming. I mean, yeah, maybe I should be that. No, I should not be that hyper aware, but literally I was just like flumping down the steps. And all of a sudden I was a monster coming.
Yeah, shunned. Like, I think the way that our brains kind of interpret that is like, oh my gosh, I'm gross. Does someone not want to touch me? Like, it feels like we're being shunned, even if she's like, I don't want to get sick or whatever it is. But that reaction is very that's hard to sit with.
It is. I think I mean, I don't want to tell you how I really felt about it, but I mean, just in general, just feeling that feeling of rejection. What was that? I was reading something earlier today.
Yeah, rejection. And you're to feel that way. That's a feeling that can be valid for you.
So this is what I was reading. I knew that there was a point to this. I get a newsletter about neglect. And I just love her articles and stuff. She's I can't remember her name. I wish I could say it so y'all could go and look her up. Damn, it's Janice something. But anyway, she sends these things about neglect. And basically what it was saying is during these times, if you are somebody that experienced childhood neglect or neglect in the form of abuse at some point in your life, these times could be really damaging to you.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden people are weary of you. They don't want to be near you. And it's more of the like, hey, I could just step out of the way here versus the, oh my God, move back. It
can be really triggering. And I think that's another reason that like we can take a step back and think about like not everyone's perspective is the same as mine. Like even if I didn't experience this, there are a lot of other people who did experience abuse and neglect and rejection. And there are so many triggers during this time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think it's really important that we're doing this to show these people, like, especially the ones who feel like they're not advocated for, like, you have a space here. You are just as worthy as anybody else.
Mm-hmm. So I just realized that we're almost like to a full hour. We had all the stuff that I have writing down. So I do want to get our final thoughts on this. I know we probably could do a whole other video on this. But I'll start and then I'll give you kind of the final. One of the things I wrote down, change and adaptation is great. That's what makes us, human beings and being able to continue to evolve, like changing things, adapting. And that's what we're going through right now. We are in, again, unprecedented times where nobody knows what's going to happen. This has not happened before. And I don't want to say any generation, but just this in general, for most of the younger generations, this is everybody, no one knows what to do. However, people can't really change and adapt without being able to validate their own feelings as they move through it. We are in a society where oftentimes it is just like, find the positive and life will be good and come on, let's, just be happy and what's the silver lining? And while, again, the both and, I think that is magnificent for people to be able to find that right now. I wish that I could be in your shoes.
Yeah.
I wish I could be at home. And to be honest with you, other than like what's happening with our financials with my husband, like, I don't know why I'm not able to just be in that position, because life has not changed that much for me. But that doesn't mean that I haven't been through things in my life that has not given me the perspective to understand there are very differing degrees of how people are experiencing this. So what I'm asking today, if you get anything out of our talk, is just to think for a second how this might be impacting your fellow human beings. No matter the religion, no matter the race, no matter the privilege, no matter the class, no matter the financials, like, where is everybody? Mm-hmm. Where is everybody in this, and how is it impacting people? Because your words matter. They do. We are impacting every single person as we're moving through this. And so opening up more of an empathetic ear, a more compassionate ear, because we have to move through this together. I agree. We're not all together because we're not experiencing it the same, but we are moving through this era.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying for all of us.
Exactly. And I think what you said was so important about, like, we need to feel things in order to change and adapt. And shame often gets in the way of us changing and of us adapting. And I think, like, when people feel so shamed during this time, it makes it even more difficult for them to adapt to this really unprecedented situation. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think, like, I'm hoping that one of the huge things that people get out of this talk as well is that, like, think before you shame somebody, and maybe use your words, not maybe, please do use your words constructively, because what you say does have an impact on people. And, this is so unprecedented that I don't think anybody knows the right thing to do. And I think
there is no right thing.
Yeah, there's not. I don't think anybody knows, like, the exact solution here. We're all doing our best. I'm not saying that you should be out partying in large masses right now, but I think the majority of people are doing their best, and let's have a little bit of compassion for others who aren't in your position, and think about, like, their position.
Mm-hmm. And I think that for me, kind of the last words for me are going to be the same thing that I said when I met with Stephen Phillipson earlier, and I posted on my Instagram. It is okay to be sad that people are going to die from the coronavirus and get really, really ill. But it's also okay to be sad for all the people that are going to suffer economically about this, who are going to really hurt for the next couple of years. It's okay to do both. You don't have to choose.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't have to choose. And
the key to that is listening. The key to that is hearing where people are coming from this and their fear through this.
Yeah. And I've seen, like, the last thing I'll add is I've seen, like, oh, you have to cancel your wedding. Well, people are dying. So, like, maybe you shouldn't talk. And that it just really invalidates, like, you don't know what this wedding may have meant to someone. Maybe their, grandpa was able to see it because, it's his last like month of life or whatever. And now the grandpa's not going to be allowed to be at the wedding because he might be dead, before you like just the shaming just really, it kills me. And you're allowed to grieve, whether that's a wedding, a funeral, a graduation, or just a loss of income. You can grieve that, and you can, like, your feelings are valid. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And if they do, unfollow, block, delete, let them go.
Yeah. And it's okay to feel however you need to feel. And our hope is through these chats and through communicating how we're feeling on this situation, that if you at all are feeling that same way, you aren't alone. And it isn't, again, this is not about who's right and who's wrong. Oh my God, at all. It's both. And it is, I wish I could be a silver lining person. I do. I'm not.
That's the point of this. That is okay. You don't need to find a silver lining. That is okay. You can get through this in whatever way that you can get through this, and you can do whatever helps you. We are not required to find gratitude during this time because, unfortunately, some people really don't have a ton to be grateful for.
And may not through this whole thing. This could be, so I could belabor that point forever. Any final words for us, Alegra?
Any last words? I hope this talk has been helpful for people. And like you said, the both and is really important. If you are able to find gratitude, that is wonderful. Maybe you can help somebody out if you're in a position to do so. And if you're not feeling grateful, that is absolutely okay too. My heart goes out to everybody struggling right now, everybody that, I've had a couple of clients who can't afford therapy anymore. So if you're in that position where you're having to choose what to pay for and what not to pay for, I'm sending you so much love, and I see you and I think about you, and we're all going to get through this. It's going to be painful, but we're going to get through it.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a while too. It isn't going to be. But think about that's why I think it's important to talk about this now, because as we move through it, people who are maybe full of gratitude right now in 2 months may need to know that they can be validated if they're not feeling grateful.
In 2 months, I feel like I am trapped in this house, and yes, I am safe in my house. I kind of feel trapped. Okay. I said it. I feel trapped, and that's okay. You're allowed to feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, Alegra, thank you for being on. I know we're both really passionate about this topic. We're going to continue to talk about it. I know we're going to do another video soon for my YouTube channel. Just appreciate who you are, what you stand for, and how you always speak up for people that sometimes feel like they don't have a voice.
Thank you. I hope that's what people take out of this.
Yeah. So for those of you that joined us, thank you so much for being here. If you have any comments or questions about the content, I know that it was a little bit probably hard to receive because we really do. It's just always this natural thing to let's try to focus on the positive. But as you know, me and my advocacy, I'm not all about that anyway, most of the time. I always try to dive deep and find how we can meet people that aren't feeling, what is mostly in the norm. And I think sometimes it's really important to bring those people to light and to help validate and give compassion to their experience, because each one of us is going to have highs and lows through this. And my message to you is that no matter where you are, I hope you can click onto any of these fireside chats. Know that you're not alone. Know that we're experiencing it right there with you, and know that moving forward, we're going to continue to be there to meet you and walk alongside you, no matter where any of our heads are. So with that, I really appreciate you tuning in. We're going to be continuing to put content on our OCD Gamechangers Facebook page. Please share our content, because we really need to make sure that people know that they're not alone during this time. I'll see you on Wednesday with Dr. Patrick McGrath and Margaret Sisson. We're going to be talking about what people are experiencing in regards to addiction, because that's also a highly controversial topic during now, when people are like, they should close the liquor stores. And then it's like, oh, but what about people who are suffering and struggling? So we're going to talk about that in depth. I hope you'll join me. It's 1:30 Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. I'll see you then. Please stay safe and know that you're not alone.
You're not alone.